So I want to say a big welcome to our virtual event, Why and How to Upgrade to SAP S/4HANA. I'm Jake Eisbart, Head of Marketing for NIMBL. Before we get started, I want to state the obvious. We're in a new climate. It's a new climate for everyone, to say the least, and we're actually used to doing this presentation in person, on site at your office or at an office space. But we're not going to let that stop us. We can't from providing you guys with the best possible thought leadership. So as a data point, this event is intended to be interactive. So we will be putting poll questions at the start of each section, and we'll answer all your questions at the end of each section. We want to essentially create the same informal vibe that we have at our in-person events. So you can feel free to type your questions into the chat box, and we'll queue them up. And Michael will answer the questions at the end of each section. And one final thing. We all know that advisors and you, the attendees, are working off of personal internet bandwidth. So if you experience any gaps, don't worry. We're recording this, and we'll send you a recorded presentation of the event. If we actually experience any gaps, any extended gaps, hopefully we won't, but we'll be sending everybody an invite for a rescheduled event. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, we are really excited to have everybody here, and we want to say thank you so much for joining us. We are NIMBL. We are an SAP Gold partner, providing both technical and functional business solutions and support for our clients, whether they be mid-market, large enterprise. Our focus areas include S/4HANA, both on-prem and in the cloud, business analytics, cloud hosting, Industry 4.0, which is essentially machine learning, chatbots, Internet of Things, and cloud platform. Digital commerce, and we also have a managed services practice providing ongoing support for these solutions 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. At NIMBL, we are proud to be a 2019 Innovation Award winner for bringing real-time analytics to the 49ers and a Pinnacle Award finalist as the S/4HANA Partner of the Year. And these are some of the books that we've published, our presenters have published through SAP Press. You can access those through sap-press.com. And let's get to our speaker. We're really excited to have MJ, or Michael Jolton, our Vice President of S/4HANA Pre-Sales, here to take you through this entire session. He's a nationally recognized speaker, and he's also co-author of the SAP Press book, Use Cases, Functionality, and Extensibility.
Thank you all for joining, and we'll get rolling here now. All right, good. So what we're going to go through today basically is 4 separate presentations. It really breaks into 2 sections. The first is why to upgrade, and we'll really look at, in our first presentation, the architectural foundations of S/4HANA and why they're different from ECC and why it creates a truly different ERP and ERP experience. So that'll be our first. And then our second presentation, we'll take a deeper dive into the finance benefits and the universal journal and what that provides. So we'll get into more specifics there. In that section, I've added in some demos, so we'll go into a live system and see how that looks as well. Next, we'll move into the second half, where we're really going to talk about how we move to S/4HANA. We'll talk about some of the SAP movement tools that are available. And then last but not least, we'll talk about some of the different options of how to go at your specific move in terms of how NIMBL would do it, right? So that's our agenda for today. And with that, we'll go ahead and go to our first presentation. We've heard about, I think, some of the key drivers of innovation in S/4HANA. First, user experience with the award-winning Fiori user design, right? Hopefully a lot of you have seen that or heard about that. We're going to see some of that today, and I'll talk about why that creates business benefit, not just a pretty screen. Second, we'll talk about the intelligent infrastructure. SAP S/4HANA is the first truly intelligent ERP, but I'm going to tell you exactly what that means, how that's in the app, and what business benefit that drives. Last but not least, we'll talk about data management, the revolutionary HANA in-memory columnar database, And again, what does that mean from a business standpoint, not just technical from a database side? So I've got these key drivers of innovation. Hopefully, as we go through this, you will ask, so what? So what, Mike? I mean, why do I care about this? What does it mean to my business? This is the big question that I'm hoping to answer for you today, at least from a business perspective. So let's start talking about our benefits from a user experience side. So before I do that, I want to take a quick step back to talk about business user trends. Okay, your business users today, if you're using ECC, they're comfortable with their SAP GUI. They've learned how to work through it. They've memorized all the T codes that they need to know and everything like that. However, things are changing, right? One, we've got the silver tsunami, right? And in the U.S. alone, we've got 10,000 people turning 65 every day, and those baby boomers are retiring between 61 and 65. So that means they're leaving your workforce and creating a talent shortage. At the same time, the baby bust generation is much smaller. Business, up to this point anyway, has led to unemployment being at historic lows. Obviously, for certain industries right now, that's changed dramatically, but not necessarily for the IT industry. And of course, with low unemployment comes employee mobility and the ability to leave, right? So the result now is we've got this mixed talent pool where we've got younger, inexperienced workers backfilling for the folks who are retiring. And then we've also got this paradox of older workers who are coming back into the workforce, realizing that there's opportunity there. Maybe they didn't really want to fully retire. So now I've got this mixed talent pool of young folks. I've got some experienced folks, and now I've got some really experienced folks. And so the key here now is that our business applications have to account for these changes. Apps have to be usable and used by all of your talent pool. So thus we enter the commercial grade user experience. And you might have heard folks at SAP talk about this before, but what does it really mean? Okay, and the key design theory here is that theoretically, anyone may use the app, or conversely, no one may use the app if it doesn't solve their problems, if it doesn't meet the experience that they're looking for, right? So when you bring this into practice, what does it mean? It means that you're applying color schemes that will create a positive attitude. You're using a range of graphics and images to engage the user, and not only from a business perspective, but from an emotional perspective as well. Key point here is discoverability as well. So users can easily find what they're looking for. We'll go through and talk a lot about that today. If we look to the two graphics on the right-hand side of the screen here, we see the old SAP Easy Access menu system, right? And below that, we see the new SAP Fiori Launchpad, right? And how different it is. And we'll talk a lot about how that provides discoverability as well as learnability in this next point. Users being able to get educated on the application quickly. And last but not least, things today have to be responsive. They have to move very quickly. So let's start talking about benefits of the Fiori UI and focus here on navigation. Okay, in SAP GUI, users had to either know where they were going, so they had their T codes memorized, or they had to hunt around with that menu from the previous screen and elsewhere to find out where to go. A lot of training involved to get there, a lot of experience to get familiar with all those different T codes. With the Fiori Launchpad, which I've got an example here on the right, users have everything they need all in one place. You can access your Fiori apps, you can access your classical apps, and you can even have links out to other websites and apps as well, all from one place. Bringing it all together, allowing me to see it how I want to see it, when I want to see it, is going to save time. right? I don't have to look as much. I've got that discoverability piece. A couple of points on the screenshot that I have here, right? First, tiles can be hidden, they can be moved, they can be grouped. As you see, I've got kind of in the middle, I've got this journal entry set of apps, right? And I can move those around to how I use them. Again, I can hide some I don't want to see. I can customize groups, and you'll see that with my demo later today. And then, of course, you've got tools such as lists for my recently used apps and my most frequently used apps and that sort of thing. So again, just being able to find what I need quickly, right? Saving time saves time. Time is money. We all know that, right? So moving on, seamless interaction. Okay, with a transaction-based ERP like ECC is today. I go from transaction to transaction, step by step. With S4HANA now, I've got these hyperlinks. So everything that you see in that screen on screenshot, everything in blue, that's a hyperlink. So I can jump to exactly what I'm looking at directly. I don't have to go type in a T code. I can really navigate naturally the way the way I think and the way I want to move through the system. I don't have to go exactly the way it's scripted or go from one transaction to another. The other thing is I've got a screenshot of my iPhone here, and I've got one of the apps up, and as you can see, it's going to have the same look and feel. There's less real estate because it's a smaller screen, so Fiori adapts to that. But I've still got the same concepts, I've still got the same blue hyperlinks and so on, so I can use the apps on my phone much like I would if I was on my desktop. Next is the enterprise search, okay? And this is something, so if you look in the top right-hand corner of the screenshot here, what you can see is I've clicked on that little magnifying glass that's blue there. And here, I'll use my pointer there. And I typed in headlight. Now, I purposely misspelled it, H-E-D-L-I-G-H-T, to show a couple of things. One, it shows that if you look down below, S4HANA said, hey, maybe you meant headlight with an A. And then so it shows that Google-like fuzzy logic to search through the HANA database. The other thing you see here, and we'll go through this in more detail, is it's looking through the entire HANA database very quickly. And so it's going to give me all instances where headlight exists, whether that's a material, whether it's in an order, and so forth. So again, if I forget the name of a customer, if I forget the name of a material, or if I've only got partial information, I can type that in, and I'm going to be able to do that search very, very quickly, saving time. So the next thing I want to show here is what happens when I hit that headlight in all, right? So my first screen here on the left, I see I've got 194 instances of headlight in the system. I've got product, purchase contracts, purchase orders, purchase requisitions. Okay, so I get this nice summary right here. To the right, I see header information, and it's going to, and then I've got these hyperlinks below that are going to adjust based on the type of document we're looking at. So here I've got a product. If I come down here to the standard PO, I see that I have different hyperlinks to take me to work on that. But the key here that I want to talk about now is filters. Right now I have a list of 194, and I want to call that down to find specific purchase order. I just don't remember the number. So now what I can do is I can use my filter and select purchase orders. So if I do that, I'm going to get this next screen, which now you'll see it opens up. I've selected purchase orders, and then it opens up this additional filter criteria. So I want to look for those created by a specific user, maybe tied to a specific supplier, purchasing group, when it was created, and so on. So I've got that ability to very quickly just hit some check boxes, and now I see I've got 4 results. Okay, and now from here, I can go ahead and click on that standard PO hyperlink here, and that's going to bring me to the purchase order. So again, that discoverability, that ability to find what I need very quickly, even when I don't have all the information I may be, might need to go find it, is a real benefit within S4HANA and the Fiori look and feel. Another thing that we've heard from a lot of different clients is, hey, I've got these workflows and they get stuck, right? Somebody, they get an email notification that gets buried in their inbox. I get pounded with, 50 emails a day. I'm sure you all do as well. And so sometimes those notifications get lost. And so what happens, the workflow stalls because the approver didn't see that they had that notification. What S4HANA has done is they've created this, in the top right corner, there's this little notification icon, this little bell, okay? And when you get a new notification, you'll get a little red number. What does red do? It draws the eyes, it draws attention. So you'll get a number, and that'll give you the count of the number of notifications you have that are new. And then in addition to that, if I've got the My Inbox tile, right, showing, and what I've done here again, just to show with mobility, I've got it on my iPhone, but my Inbox app has an interactive count, right, a key performance indicator, if you will, the number of items I have, and that's going to increment or decrement, again, based on the notifications I get and how I handle them. So the idea here is to help get rid of those workflow blockages and speed up your overall cycle times. The other reason I show it on the mobile app here is obviously if I'm tethered to my desk and I can only do approvals when I'm at my desk with my PC, well then that's going to slow up workflows. Having it in a mobile app and the ability to get those notifications and make those approvals from the mobile app, again, the whole idea is to get rid of those workflow blockages. Also with the notifications, I've got the ability to further tailor that so that I can sort my notifications to see the most important ones first. I can hide the notifications that don't require action, but they're information based only. So much like email can get noisy and clogged up, notifications could, depending on how your company uses them. And so you've got the ability to again, filter those, sort those, hide, so you can see what's most important and take that action when you need it. The next point I want to talk about here is Enable Now. So, excuse me, Enable Now is embedded within S4HANA Cloud, and it's a separately licensed item for S4HANA. It provides active user assistance within the app. It more or less sits on top of the app. And what I can have with it, what I see here is I've got the ability to create click-through training applications. So I can have my training right there in the app so that, again, I don't have to have separate training sessions. I've forgotten how to create a purchase rec. I can go to my training videos and find that video or click-through demo, if you will, and get that training. So that learnability, I've got the ability now to build that all within my application, both with these click-through demos as well as hotkey help. So as you can see, I've got this balance sheet income statement app opened here, and I've got each little bubble, right, is a field that has hotkey help that's shown over here. And then if I click on, so I looked at unassigned accounts, if I click on that, I can get much more detail there. So I've got that ability to put that kind of active learning all within my UI, right? So increasing that learnability, getting people the information they need so that they can work on it, work on what they need to work on without going to getting more training and so on and so forth. Everything happens much more quickly. Quick note here, Enable Now also has the ability to sit on top of any other application. Maybe that's a SAP Web GUI or not even an SAP application. You've got that capability. Okay, last thing I want to focus on here with the UI is tiles as a KPI dashboard. So we've seen these tiles, right? And what they are is, generally speaking, if I look at this purchasing spend report tile, if I click on that, that's going to take me into the purchasing spend report. But I also have the ability to add KPIs on top of key performance indicators on my tiles to give me amounts, counts, percentages, ranges. I've got this little range graph here. I can have a mini top 3 graphic, and as you can see here, I've got red, yellow, and green, so I can use color again to drive attention to something that's red. Obviously, oh gosh, I need to go work on that. So this is where I really start to see my ability to get insight into that data. It's all real time. And that's driven by the HANA database, which we'll talk about more. So this is what's in the system at this moment. And again, it's going to drive my attention to manage by exception. So I don't have to read through a long report to find out, oh gosh, I've got some off-contract spend issues that I need to go address. I see it right here when I come in the morning and turn to my computer. So in summary, the value of good user experience, right? It provides true business benefit, as we've talked about. We've talked about gaining productivity. You can increase your data quality just in how you're allowing users to interact with the system. You're saving training time and costs with a better UI. You're decreasing, help desk requests. How do I do this? You're decreasing user errors. You're increasing your user satisfaction and solution adoption, so people aren't, everybody, with ECC, they have, tons of people who just download data into Excel and manipulate Excel, and then they put stuff back into ECC. All it is a data repository for your transactions. Now they're actually using the system to truly increase productivity, and we'll see more of that this morning. Or this afternoon rather. And then, side benefit to the IT group, it strengthens that IT business relationship because the users are certainly happier with what they've got. It becomes more of a collaborative, hey, what more can I do? As opposed to, hey, it doesn't do what I need it to do. My last point here is if you're considering a move from ECC to S4, there's a couple of different ways to do it, right? What we like to do is activate all of the Fiori apps, but really only make a few available. That minimizes, change to the business out of the gate. But what will happen is they'll see that, and they won't feel like it's being shoved on them. I like my old T codes. But they'll see, gosh, I can do this. Man, this looks it's better, it's faster for me, it's got everything I need in one place. Can I get that for this app as well? And it creates that pull, right? So users are more excited about the change as opposed to pushing off change. Okay. And again, as we talk about building the business case, we've just been talking about the UI. We haven't even been talking about the apps yet and what they can do for us. So we're already seeing that business benefit. Hopefully, you all are seeing that. So I'm going to keep rolling here and move into talking about the intelligent infrastructure. And what does that mean? Basically, as we break it down, the intelligent infrastructure is going to help us interact with the system. It's going to help us execute transactions, and it's going to actually help us optimize our business processes. From the interact standpoint, we've got conversational AI. Okay, and these are chat bots that act as an interface, getting the mouse out of your hands, right? Getting rid of that. So I'm talking to my computer. I need to help create I need help creating a purchase order. How do I do that? And then it'll walk me through that. You know, like Siri does, gives me directions on my telephone. Chatbots are going to become the way of the future for how you interact with your ERP, and that's in S/4HANA today, right? Next is execution. So intelligent RPA, or robotic process automation. We'll talk a little bit more about that. The easiest way for me to see what that is, it's like an Excel macro, right? You've got a repetitive process. You can use an RPA bot to run that process for you, as opposed to having to go and type in everything off of a spreadsheet or something like that. Last is this optimized piece, and we're going to focus on machine learning, but we can talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning, some of these other tools for optimization. SAP has built in machine learning concepts into several applications. We'll talk about how that can actually improve your productivity with the apps that it has. So conversational AI, right? Again, the whole idea here is managing our day-to-day business activities more efficiently and effectively. But the big key here is using everyday English. I'm just talking to my computer. I'm just typing into my computer in everyday English, and my computer is talking back to me in English. What I've got here, I'm not going to dwell on it heavily, but these are some of the key components that your chatbots should have. Okay, they should have business context awareness. So if I'm asking about a particular company and I'm in a purchase request, it should know I'm talking about that company as a supplier, not as a customer, that sort of thing. The conversational multimodal UI, again, being able to talk to it in natural language. I shouldn't have to shouldn't have to be some kind of programming language. Cross applications, it should carry me through the whole business scenario that I'm working through without having to leave that chatbot. Self-learning. I know that now when I get into my car, my phone automatically tells me how long it is, how long it'll be to get home. I don't have to put in my map or anything like that to see what traffic is going to be like. That's what the self-learning is. And then again, having that simple access to the enterprise AI platform, being able to have a solution that can work with SAP and with non-SAP solutions is going to be critical going forward. With S/4HANA, SAP has what they call the Copilot. This is the conversational AI tool. There is also a conversational AI tool that you can license separately. They are going to I gotta get my hands on camera here. They are going to merge together over time, but right now you might see both of those terms. So when we're talking about S/4HANA, we're generally talking about Copilot. If you want to license a separate conversational AI tool, SAP has that as well. So benefits of having our digital assistant. The big key is time, right? Guided assistance for activities are, again, not commonly done, so I don't have to waste time figuring out what to do. But more importantly, or maybe of equal importance, I don't know, but if I don't know how to do something, I know my tendency is I might do a little hunting and pecking and try and figure out by myself, and then I'm going to go bother my neighbor. So now, not only am I not being productive, I've taken productivity away from my neighbor and maybe 2 or 3 neighbors, because now we've got 3 people huddled over a cubicle trying to figure out what to do, right? If I could just go and type into to the computer, hey, how do I create a purchase rec for a new laptop? Well, here's an example on screen of kind of how that's going to flow. the computer will help take me through that. So again, big time savings there. The other piece here with the conversational chatbots and stuff, you know, the initial discussion I've been talking about is human to computer. Also, though, with Copilot, you've got that human-to-human collaboration capability as well. So what I've done here, I've got my cash flow analyzer app in the background, but in the foreground, you see a window here with the Copilot. And you know, Ginny Manager here was sending me a message saying that she was looking at our cash discount utilization. It seems short. You know, are we leveraging our current cash position? And then what she's done is she's included a screenshot, which you can take from within S4HANA. So she's included a screenshot, and it's small, and I apologize you can't see, but she's annotated it as well. With some circles, some arrows. She's typed in some notes on that. And what I can do with this is if I have rights to that app, right, if I've got those security rights, I can click on that screenshot. It's going to take me to that app. So really improving, really increasing the ability to collaborate much more quickly and with greater detail. Right, so and more interactive than a phone call. A couple of key questions that usually get asked here. One is about history tracking. History will be saved on that conversation as long as you keep the conversation around. If you delete it, it's gone. It's considered transitory data. It's not going to be saved as part of any kind of records retention. And then, like I said, with the screenshots and going to the app, you do have to have that security rights. If you don't, you can click on it, but it's not going to take you to the app. It'll just make the graphic bigger. Okay, moving on to talk about RPA, robotic process automation. Okay, again, as I talked about, we're automating a standard process with recorded transactions, and they're going to execute this repetitive and often very time-consuming tasks, right? And I either have to take you know, admins and task them with doing tasks like, you know, copying in information from a form, or worse, you know, if I have to take, you know, more experienced and more costly analyst time. Okay, so so again, the idea, I want to capture manual flow. I'm going to create this bot. It will be combined with APIs and triggers and so forth to get the data where it needs to go, and then it will run through. Obviously, we want to do health checks on it to make sure everything's working correctly, but the idea is it's taking all that manual time away. What I've done here is I'm going to go through the next couple of slides to talk about some of the RPA scenarios that have already been built into S4HANA. Okay, so these are scenarios that you can already use. Okay, assets are often extremely numerous. It's time consuming to manage, and so you can see with things like mass asset retirement, mass asset transfers and acquisitions, you know, SAP has built in multiple RPA bots already, and again, they're going to continue to add to this list as they update the solution. From a receivables management standpoint, there's you know, not a huge list here yet, but it's growing, and so you know, automated upload of down payments, email notifications to customers when there's a dispute, and you know, on the bottom there, you know, managing their responses back when there's a dispute. So really kind of helping automate some of these non-value added tasks for that process. In the finance area, a little bit more going on here in terms of just some of the accounting processes that you're going to go through. Automated upload of journal entries. There's different ways to get journal entries into the system, right? Obviously, you can type them in with the journal entry app, There is an app as well where you can download an Excel template and just upload it. You'll get the journal entries in. If you don't want to use that template, or you've got your own that you want to use for some reason, you can make use of this RPA bot to go through that Excel spreadsheet, your particular one, and get those entries into your system. As we get into sourcing and procurement, this to me is an area where we're going to see a lot of growth, as well as in sales, and then manufacturing, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Sourcing and procurement, where I've got a lot of sophistication on the part of my suppliers, I might be using EDI, but maybe I don't have EDI, or maybe they're not EDI capable. Well, now I can do things like creating purchase recs from an Excel spreadsheet, doing my purchase order confirmations based on a supplier's email back, uploading supplier invoice attachments that they include, and again, things like down payment requests and so forth. So you'll see more of these happen. Quick note here, these three-letter or three-digit codes, those tie to SAP best practices that go through the process for handling a purchase rec and so forth. So that's what those codes tie to. In the for sales, again, very similar. I might have customers who just can't handle EDI yet, but they could certainly work with Excel and email. So creating sales inquiries, scheduling agreements, creating sales orders from an Excel spreadsheet that a client sends me, that sort of thing. Those RPA bots are already there and ready to be configured and used. Supply chain, I'm not going to focus a lot on supply chain, but again, you can see SAP realizes there's opportunities here for things like uploading your physical inventory count list and posting goods movements and that sort of thing. As we get, though, to the shop floor, right, a lot of the shop floor is manual. There's a lot going on in terms of order confirmations, completions, printing pick lists, and that sort of thing. As you can see, there's a quite a bit of RPA capability that's been built into the system today to help get rid of all that time spent doing this non-value add data entry. On the professional services side, and again, I don't know, out in the ethosphere, if some of you folks use the professional services functionality or not. But for those of you who do, you know that if you change a resource on a project, a lot of times I've got to have an admin go in and go through every single task that they're assigned to and make those changes. If I change a profit center, again, just all these cascading changes, and the bigger the project, the more time consuming it is. So SAP has done a wonderful job of building in RPA bots to handle a lot of these time consuming efforts, including uploading timesheet entries and so forth. So from there, I'm going to jump over into machine learning. I don't think any presentation is complete without a reference to a cartoon. In this case, of course, the boss thinks the internet is trying to kill him, and Dilbert lets him know that, hey, it's machine learning. The machine learning in S/4HANA is not trying to kill you, but trying to make your processes much more efficient. Okay, and the way it works is it's going to, as people take actions, it's going to record those actions, and then it's going to apply statistical models and algorithms and such to say, all right, the next time something like this happens, I think they're going to do it this way, right? And so the machine is learning, and it will continue to watch and learn for a period of time that you determine, and then it will start to make recommendations. So we'll talk about some of these examples, but the idea is if I have to sit and figure out how to apply a partial payment against multiple orders, that's taking my time to figure out. Well, if I do that using the same or similar logic every time, and if every other accounts receivable rep does the same thing or similar, the system's going to watch, it's going to learn from that, and then it's going to say, hey, I think you want to apply it this way, and then I can do that much quicker. So hopefully, again, if we apply the Pareto principle, right, we can get rid of 80% of these cases, let the machine figure it out, and then we can really focus on the last 20%, if you will, that really need that attention. So so let's talk about some of these scenarios. A quick point here, I just want to make some of these scenarios are already embedded within S/4HANA and that licensing, and some do require additional licensing. So based on the capability you want, we can help you figure that out, or you can work with SAP to figure out where you need additional licensing. But within finance, receivables line item matching, and as I was just talking about. So the idea is, again, if I can help get rid of a lot of that noise of normally I'm going to apply, look, if I get a check and it matches the order, done, right? That the system's going to take care of that automatically. But now I've got 2 orders out here, and I've got a partial pay. How's it going to apply it? And I've got, there's any number of scenarios for that, right? So the system is going to watch, and then it's going to start to make recommendations. And then when you're comfortable, it can just take over and start processing those. The idea here is, first, obviously, I'm taking that time out from processing those and saving time and increasing productivity there. But more of equal importance, I guess I'll say, now I've got this 20% or whatever that number is of situations that I can really put my time to make sure those get handled correctly, as opposed to I've got to get through all this other noise, and I still want to get to my kid's soccer game, and so I'm just going to rush through it, and I may or may not get it done right. So the idea here is now I've got that time to get it done right and still get to my kid's soccer game. On the manufacturing side of things, the defect code proposal is kind of a neat one. So, I've got I'm going to report a defect on the line. The system, based on where it is and the types of defects that have come out, it's going to help propose that, so I don't have to look through a long list. Maybe not a huge time saver, but again, kind of the idea of where things are going. Okay. Early detection of slow moving stock or non-moving stock, that can become a real benefit over time to help identify, maybe, hey, let's increase our sales to help get the stock off the shelves and what have you. Point here being that's roadmap for the 2009 or next year's release, and there's going to be other stuff roadmapped as well. Okay. On the procurement side, quite a few scenarios here. Contract consumption, we'll see some other screenshots around that today. But the idea being, if I'm, as I'm buying against a contract, it will help me to get some kind of notation to know, hey, you're going to run out of that contract if you don't re-up it, by such and such date. What does that do? That saves me money, because if I can renegotiate my contract before it's due, I have more bargaining power, right? So it also helps me prevent anyone from purchasing after my contract is run out and then buying off contract, which more likely than not is going to be at a higher cost. Proposing creation of new catalog items. This kind of ties also, there's proposing material groups for free text items. This is, again, the fewer items I have in a catalog, the fewer items I have on contract, that means more stuff that's being purchased at a non-negotiated rate, which means higher net cost to the company. Okay, so again, the more that people are creating these free text purchase requests, and those purchases are happening, the system's watching that, says, gosh, you sure do buy a lot of green pens. You might want to put that on in your catalog, and let you know that. So now my purchasing manager can start to do that, and hopefully save the company money by buying green pens and off a contract. Proposing options for materials that don't have a purchase contract. Again, that whole move. Let's try and keep things on a contract spend. Supplier delivery prediction is a nice one to know. When can I expect these goods in? Maybe your production manager is getting nervous to see stock dropping down. It'll be nice to know, hey, based on all of our history with this supplier and this particular item and this location and so forth, we can expect these goods in by this date. And if we don't see them coming in by then we might need to take some additional action, but it will hopefully prevent any kind of I'll say panicked buying to restock, even though something is maybe already in transit. And last but not least here, I want to talk about this image-based ordering. So, and this is the image that I've got here up on the top right of the screen. So the idea is I can use my phone or a tablet, go take a picture of a filter or whatever I need to replace, and the system is going to say, oh, well, that looks like one of these three different air filters. Which one do you want to order? And then I can order it quickly from there. I don't have to spend the time to go look up or even go to the catalog. I'm taking a picture of what I want to replace, and it's going to find that for me. So again, what are we doing? We're reducing procurement costs. This is, to me, one of the real big savings that an ERP can provide you. Right? When I reduce procurement costs, those go straight to the bottom line. That goes straight to profitability, and makes a big difference in your bottom line. So the idea, I'm preventing loss of favorable contract terms, I'm preventing off-contract spend, and preventing that loss of cash discounts, right? If I can pay early and get cash discounts, again, huge savings to the company, the more you spend. Also then, as with the picture up above, I am reducing that procurement time. That's all a nice productivity saving as well. One, by having more stuff in a catalog, and two, by having something like this image-based ordering, I can reduce the time people spend doing non-value add activities like purchasing replacement filters and such. Okay, on the sales side, not as much going on in this space yet with machine learning, but some. So that quotation conversion probability rate, getting that figured out to really start to understand, all right, I've got these 75 quotes in the system, which ones are going to convert to sales, and then I can do a better job of predicting what my earnings are going to be. We're going to talk about that more in the Universal Journal section as well. Delivery performance, on-time deliveries for my sales, and being able to track that. Again, I'm going to help increase my customer service and that happier customers, repeat business, et cetera, et cetera. Professional services, not a lot yet, but coming in 2009, intelligent staffing and resource management or resource matching is coming as a machine learning tool going forward there. All right. That's it for the intelligent infrastructure. Again, quite a bit out there, and we're really scratching the surface. Those are the basics there as we go through that. So next thing I want to talk about is the HANA database, and what does that give me, right? In terms of, I've heard about the HANA database, and I've heard it's fast, but so what? What does that really mean? I've heard terms like in memory. Well, that means speed. Okay, that's great. I've heard columnar. Well, that what does that mean? Well, that means simplified. We'll talk about that in a second. A real key piece here is how it's the database now, because of the speed, because of the simplification, is optimized so that I can do both my online transaction processing, entering an order, along with my online analytical processing, looking at reports about my sales orders. Okay, old school. I've got to, at the end of the night, I'm going to upload all my data to a reporting database, and then come in the next day, and I get my online analytical processing apps, right? I get my reports, but guess what? That data's old, right? So now, because I've got the ability to do OLAP and OLTP at the same time, I've got the ability to transact, to see reports with real-time data, and then transact based on that real-time data. We'll talk more examples of that as we get into the Universal Journal section as well. Let's go on to the next slide. So as you see here, I've got, and these aren't all of the tables in the system, but these are the main tables in ECC today, whether it be in sales or materials or finance. And what's happened, once I'm able to denormalize these tables, and without getting into, why relational databases are structured the way they are, when I can denormalize them, what I can do now, and hopefully this will translate on your over the internet. But what happens is I have a lot fewer tables. When I have fewer tables, that means it's a heck of a lot easier to write reports and to see that data. And there's a whole bunch more benefit that will come from that. We are going to focus in our next presentation on this AC Doc A table, right? And the Universal Journal and the concept of what that means, okay? And we'll see just within this finance area what that benefit, what benefit that simplification can bring to how you operate. So we're going to talk about reporting, and we'll see some examples later today. I'll actually go into a report, and we'll talk about really what we're looking at with this screenshot. But the big key here is I don't need a developer to create cross-functional views of the data, because I've got these simplified tables that have all that cross-functional data in them, so I can get sales and finance data together and so forth. And I'll show you some examples of that in the Universal Journal section. I can have this cube-like multivariate analysis where I can drag and drop and have that what's that called Excel, but the pivot tables, right? So this really gives you an opportunity to interrogate the data, which is a term that I love to use, because now I'm not just looking at a report. I'm able to interact with the data. I'm able to find exactly what I need to see, oh wait, okay, if I look at it this way, that really changes things. So that cube analysis, again, all with real-time data, not yesterday's data, real-time. And then I kind of touched on the 360-degree views. I'll show you examples of those later today as well. So what's my benefit? I don't need to wait for IT to develop reports. I don't need the cost of IT developing those reports. And again, by interacting directly with the data, I'm going to find more valuable insights. That's a little bit softer to try and quantify, I guess, if I'm building a business case. But once you get in and do it and you see it, that becomes a very strong intangible benefit. So let's talk a little bit about analytics and transaction processing one. I talked about the OLTP, OLAP. That's great, but what does that translate into as I use the system? So the idea is to be able to quickly navigate from analytics to transaction detail. So what I've got here on the left side of my screen, on here's this total receivables report, right? An analytical report that is giving me my top 10 customers and what their receivables look like by bucket, and I can set my due periods, by the way, in S4HANA to whatever I want them to be, 30 days, 20 days, however I want to do that. But I've got my different periods. But what's important, what I want to show is, if I come down to this open in, I can click that link, and that's going to take me to, give me options tied to this particular screen. And the one I would go click on is to process receivables. So now I can see the data and then go right into the app to actually go process those receivables and work through that. The other thing I get with OLAP and OLTP together is the ability to combine analytics and transact all on a single screen. So I've got here my my GRIR reconciliation, okay, and what I see here on the top half of the screen is my graphics based on which company code, right, and then where my corrections are and where my counts are. But I also then have down here on the bottom that same data in a columnar format. And what I've done is I've clicked on a particular one that I want to go work on, and then I can click to process that item. So now I'm seeing the graphics and I'm working with the data all on one screen, all at the same time. So again, with real-time data, not yesterday's data, and again, something you just cannot do in ECC today. Another thing that S4HANA has is this concept of predictive analytics, okay? And that's going to surface in a couple of different ways, a couple of different types of apps. So one is I now have the ability with the apps and with the database to bring forward-looking information into previously what used to be just an as-is or backward-looking analysis. So what I've got here is this cash discount forecast report. On the bottom, I see in orange the cash discounts that have expired. I didn't get to take advantage of these. That's a bad thing. But what I can see now is looking forward, I've got this blue bar which tells me, hey, you might have missed out on that orange stuff, but on the upside of things, here's a bunch more cash discounts that you might be able to take advantage of if you want to go start working through that. So again, not just looking backwards, but looking forwards. The next example here is the ability to support what-if type analysis with simulation. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about simulation and how that truly works when we get to the Universal Journal. But what we can see here is here I've got excuse me, a planner, and they're looking at the capacity plan for the shop, and I'm running a simulation here. And I've got that ability to, do some what-if analysis and change my capacities and see what happens and simulate that through the system so I can see all the impacts before I make any business decisions. And lastly, but certainly not least, is applying statistical models against historical data to make predictions. And so these are a list here of the predictive models in the system today, where I can look at on the financial side of the world, abnormal liquidity items. If I go into stock, looking at stock in transit that's overdue. Again, talking about that quantity, contract consumption, and so forth. So again, using statistical models within the system, within the database, to help predict things going forward. One of my favorite examples of bringing that, looking at forward-looking data is the cash flow analyzer. Okay, so today, if I want to look at cash flow, if I'm down on S4HANA, I can see what my cash flow, is at this point in time, but I don't know what it's going to be going forward, or I don't know what, at least I think it's going to be going forward. So what the cash flow analyzer does is it's going to look at all cash-related transactions that maybe haven't hit GAAP yet, such as, sales orders that have been executed, but haven't received payment on yet, or payments that are scheduled on purchases, but they haven't closed yet. So I don't have an actual cash position change because they haven't executed, but I do have the ability to see what's going to change, right? So if I look at my cash flow analyzer app screenshot here, I've got my time period. That's 7 days forward. I can change that to whatever I want it to be. If I just want to look 3 days forward, if I want to look months forward, I've got the capability to do that. And I've got my bank accounts here on the left, and then the red arrow indicates an outgoing flow, green arrow indicates an incoming flow. My planning level tells me, and that's a code today. It's one of my wish list items is that they turn that into a text field as well. But, I see I've got outgoing checks, I've got bank transfers and more. Then I've got this overdue column. This is telling me everything that should have already hit as a cash transaction, but hasn't yet. Okay, I've got a ton in there because I'm in a demo system and we're not closing everything out and interacting with it daily. But I've got what should have already hit, and then what my cash position is, or would look like should those things hit, and then going forward, if I have planned sales orders and bank transfers and you name it, that's going to show up in the future days to let me know what my cash flow would look like. And so a lot of different opportunities here. If you think about my cash flow, maybe today doesn't look great, but if I look 2 days out, boy, it's going to be pretty strong. I can go look at my cash discounts that are available and start to set up payments to happen once some of these transactions hit, right? And I'll feel better about my cash position, and then I can take advantage of those cash discounts. Again, anytime I do that, go straight to the bottom line. As I talked about, the purchase contracts, right? So what you see here, this is actually a card. It's like a tile, but it's in an overview app, and it's going to show me some of my key contracts. And this is letting me know this Walmart contract expires in 3 weeks, and I've hardly used it, right? So I might want to go understand what's going on there, may want to go work with Walmart to extend the contract, or maybe I find out, hey, I've got another contract with another vendor for the same product, and it's it's a lot less, and that's why. And so then I can go back and negotiate with Walmart. Also, as this little green bar, as I use that contract up, that's going to move and eventually turn yellow, and then red as I get down the line to where I'm 90+% utilized on the contract to let me know, hey, I need to certainly consider renegotiating. Maybe I don't want to renegotiate that one, but I think y'all catch my drift. Additional predictive analytics benefits, production disruptions. So what we see on the left here is a material availability view. So my material coverage, each of these little bars, whether they're green or red, this is, we'll focus here on this row. If it's green, it indicates that I've got stock to cover my planned material requirements for that day. The hash marks are weekends, so that's Saturday, Sunday. Again, I can see looking out, if I go, 9 days out, I'm going to have a problem. And so I need to go double check on where my, my purchase orders are for that item, what my production orders look like, and start to plan. If I'm what we don't want to do is hit that day and not have those materials. So now I can get proactive, solve that problem before it actually occurs, and then I won't have a stock outage and then manufacturing downtime. All right, and then the stock in transit app, that's going to give me visibility outside my four walls to let me know what's on order, how much, is it overdue, how overdue is it, and I can start to manage that. Again, the idea is let me manage that proactively so I never end up with an outage situation. Another key benefit here is bottleneck visibility. I talked about bottlenecks with respect to workflows, but one of the nice apps that are out there is this blocked invoices app, okay? And it's going to let me know these invoices are blocked and they're potentially eroding early payment discounts. So let me get in there and find out why they're blocked, get rid of those blocks so we can get those early payment discounts when possible. And then reducing product costs, okay? If I am able to optimize my inventory, okay, so I'm not carrying too much, I'm not carrying too little, then obviously I reduce my inventory carrying costs, but I also then reduce costs that go on to my overall product, right, which then increases my profitability, of course, right? So, again, as I manage my material coverage, I can do some what-if analysis, and I can do some planning ahead of time to prevent shortages before they occur. And that's a real key benefit with my predictive MRP to really see what would happen if I again, come down and simulate a purchase or simulate a wreck or what have you. A few more examples out there. Improve customer service with advanced available to promise tools, right? So AATP is out there now that is going to allow me to source from multiple different locations. It's going to allow me to restrict or change orders, right? If I get an order from an A customer and I've got stock going to a C customer, I can switch that around and put the C customer on back order and make sure I get my A customer their products first. Getting rid of late delivery penalties with the predictive delivery performance. So I kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. And then what we see here is my supplier evaluation trend line. So now I can start to see, hey, things were going great for a couple of quarters, but lately they've started to slack off. I keep pointing to my screen and not using my mouse. I apologize. But I can go again and address that at least proactively to a certain extent before things get any worse. Simulation, I showed simulation of MRP a little bit earlier. Here's where I can simulate posting a journal entry. We'll talk a little bit more about simulation when we get to the universal journal section as well. But the idea is I'm able to simulate a posting here, and I can see I've got a warning, and I can understand what the issue is. Hey, you need to get in a tax code, but if I do go ahead and go forward with that simulation, it's also going to let me know, all right, what was debited, what was credited, and I can see the full impacts. And there's, again, more benefit to that as I get into reporting and such. We'll talk about that more in the Universal Journal section. All right, so we've talked about user experience. We've talked about the intelligent infrastructure. We've talked about data management and what that means. In summary, okay, what kind of competitive advantage over ECC as well as other ERPs is going to give me? As I talk about bringing together OLTP and OLAP together, I can only do that with the HANA in-memory database. I can't do that with a standard relational database today or anything before that in terms of technology. Certainly, I've got scalability, and we'll talk more about that. But the scalability that comes with the HANA database, I can go multiple geographies, divisions, subsidiaries, multiple ledgers, multiple currencies. So if I'm looking at a tier 2 competitor, we're just apples and oranges there. The user experience we talked about, it's award-winning. It's award-winning for a reason, because it does create true benefit. And then again, this whole intelligence intelligence platform. It's really an innovation platform above and beyond what competitors are doing, where they're going to get, and they will get there. SAP's just in front of them. They're the first ones there, and that means they're going to continually be innovating above and on top of that. You know, this is kind of where I say, hey, don't let me tell you, let the numbers speak for themselves. As you can see, the number of customers is, you know, it's topping probably 14,000 by now. Live customers over 4,200 and counting, right? There's 7,100 plus deployment projects out there, and you know, all these numbers are continuing to grow. And why? You know, if we look at this bottom right quadrant of this, you know, shorter delivery lead times, increases in efficiency, faster MRP processing, reducing my DSO, and just visibility of my inventory across locations and so forth. All those business benefits are coming out of S/4HANA. And so at the end of the day, I'm getting real benefits beyond the hype, just beyond, you know, hey, it's got a neat graphic user interface. Real business benefits are coming. You know, it's not your father's ERP, if you will. And why that is, it's those underlying foundational concepts that we just went through. It's the UI, it's the intelligent infrastructure, it's the HANA database. With that, we've got through the first section today. I want to go ahead and Jake, I'll turn it back to you and see if there's any questions we can answer.
Sounds good. Yeah, so we have one question pop up from Jamie. Asks, is chatbot, ML, or machine learning, robotic process automation training included in S4? I'm not sure whether or not she means from SAP or from a partner like NIMBL.
Right. So I think from SAP. So if we're talking about S/4HANA Cloud Essentials Edition, or what they used to term their multi-tenant cloud, it is included in both the Copilot is included and Enable Now is included. If we're talking about S/4HANA on-premise or S/4HANA Cloud Extended Edition, or what was the old single-tenant edition, those are separately licensed. So again, they're going to operate the same way, but they will be separately licensed.